The story of the tragedy of the RMS Titanic begins with her maiden voyage on April 10, 1912, when the largest and most luxurious passenger ship of her time departed from Southampton, England, heading toward New York City. The vessel carried wealthy industrialists, famous personalities, and hundreds of immigrants seeking a better future in America. The ship was commanded by 62-year-old Captain Edward Smith, a highly experienced officer respected in maritime circles. Titanic attracted enormous public attention because of her unprecedented size, luxury, and engineering design. Measuring approximately 269 meters in length and more than 53 meters in height, the ship cost around $7.5 million to build in 1912, which would be equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars today. Inside the ship were facilities that rivaled the finest hotels of the era, including grand staircases, stained glass decorations, ornate wood paneling, a heated swimming pool, a Turkish bath, an electric bath, a gymnasium, a squash court, 4 restaurants, 2 barbershops, and a library. Titanic was operated by the White Star Line, whose officials publicly claimed that the ship was practically unsinkable due to its advanced safety features. The ship had a double-bottomed hull and was divided into 16 watertight compartments, allowing it to remain afloat even if 4 compartments were flooded. On April 14, 1912, Titanic began receiving multiple iceberg warnings from other ships traveling across the North Atlantic Ocean, a region known for floating ice hazards. Although the ship slightly adjusted its course, it continued traveling at high speed, approximately 21 to 22 knots, which is close to 40 kilometers per hour. That night was unusually dangerous because the sky was moonless. There were no waves breaking at the base of icebergs, and visibility was extremely low. High above the deck was the Crow's Nest lookout point, where Frederick Fleet was stationed. At 11:40 p.m., Fleet suddenly spotted a massive iceberg directly in front of the ship. He immediately rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge. First Officer Murdoch ordered emergency maneuvers and reversed the engines while attempting to steer away from the iceberg, but the ship was too close and moving too fast to avoid collision. The iceberg struck the starboard side of the vessel near the bow. The impact lasted only a few seconds, yet it caused critical structural damage by buckling hull plates and opening seams, allowing seawater to enter the ship. The iceberg did not create a long gash, but instead caused multiple smaller breaches along the hull. Naval architect Thomas Andrews inspected the damage and concluded that 6 of the 16 watertight compartments had been flooded, which exceeded the ship's survivability limit. Because the damage occurred along the side of the ship, the double-bottom hull provided little protection, and the famous unsinkable design ultimately failed. At midnight, Captain Smith ordered wireless operators to send distress signals using both the CQD and the newer SOS emergency calls. Senior radio operator Jack Phillips worked continuously to transmit messages, hoping that nearby ships would respond. Around 12:20 a.m., the passenger liner RMS Carpathia received the distress signal, but it was located roughly 107 kilometers away and required about 3.5 hours to reach Titanic at maximum speed. Meanwhile, the crew began launching lifeboats according to evacuation protocol, giving priority to women and children. However, many passengers initially did not believe the ship was in serious danger because of the widespread belief in Titanic's invincibility. The first lifeboat was lowered with only about 28 people, despite having a capacity of 65. One of the major structural problems of the disaster was the shortage of lifeboats. The ship carried only 20 lifeboats, which could accommodate roughly 1,178 people, even though more than 2,200 passengers and crew were aboard. At that time, maritime regulations required lifeboats based on ship tonnage rather than passenger count. As time passed, water continued flooding the forward compartments, causing the bow of the ship to sink deeper into the ocean while the stern gradually rose above the surface. By approximately 2:05 a.m., the last lifeboat had been lowered, leaving more than 1,500 people stranded on the sinking ship. At around 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the RMS Titanic broke into 2 sections before disappearing beneath the freezing Atlantic Ocean. The water temperature at that time was approximately -2 degrees Celsius, meaning that anyone falling into the ocean could die within minutes from hypothermia. Most of the people who remained on board either drowned or succumbed to the extreme cold. It is widely believed that Captain Edward Smith remained at the ship's wheel until the end and died when the ship sank. Another controversy surrounding the disaster involved the SS Californian, which was reportedly much closer to Titanic than the rescue ship Carpathia. The Californian's radio operator had turned off the radio before the collision, which prevented it from receiving distress calls. Crew members later reported seeing rockets fired from Titanic, but Captain Stanley Lord reportedly believed they were celebratory signals rather than emergency distress flares.
Titanic, don't be. It's true! I'm going to the captain.
The sinking of Titanic led to major reforms in maritime safety. In 1914, the International Ice Patrol was established to monitor iceberg movement in the North Atlantic, and the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea was introduced to require sufficient lifeboats and continuous radio communication on passenger ships. For more than 70 years after the disaster, the wreck of Titanic remained undiscovered until September 1985, when oceanographer Robert Ballard and his research team located the wreck at a depth of approximately 3,800 meters below the ocean surface. The ship was found broken into two main sections, lying about 600 meters apart. Today, microorganisms and corrosion continue to degrade the wreck, and scientists believe that much of the structure may eventually disintegrate by the mid-21st century. More than a century after the disaster, the story of the Titanic continues to fascinate people around the world because it represents the complex interaction of technological ambition, human error, and natural forces. The tragedy transformed international maritime safety standards and serves as a lasting reminder that even the greatest engineering achievements are still vulnerable to the power of nature.